Ahoy, mateys. Hello, knife nerds. Here's something I think you might enjoy. I'm thinking I'm going to enjoy it. I hope so, because I have very good luck with these guys. So, if you like this stuff, hit hit subscribe, make a comment. Even if it's to tell me you think I'm an idiot, it's fine. I have thick skin. I don't take offense easily. But comments and likes and subscriptions and sharing it helps the algorithms, helps justify me to continue doing this stuff, knife stuff, gun stuff. By the way, if you're a Triumph fan, if you've been following my little issue I've had with the motor sort of blowing up, piston blowing up on the Speed Twin, all my parts are in. Last night talked to the tech, and he's going to be starting the rebuild today or this weekend. So I may have my Speed Twin back by next week. We'll do a review of it, ride it home, unless he delivers it to my house. We'll see. I don't mind going up there to get it, but he usually delivers it. And then we're going to decide if we're going to keep it long term. So anyway, stay tuned for that stuff and update on that. Unfortunately, he talked to the factory and they don't want me to I was going to go in and do some video of the rebuild, and they were like, no. So I don't know, just in case something went sideways. They don't want any kind of negative, stuff out there about the brand or, whatever. Not that I would do that. I love Triumph. I'm a total Triumph fanboy. So, and they're taking care of me. I got nothing bad to say about Triumph. So anyway, that's a little update. But today we're going to talk about this little fella. So I always keep my eye on Civivi because the value, I would say pound for pound, they are one of my favorite, if not my favorite brand. Yeah, there's CJRB, there's Artisan, there's Kaiser, there's some other ones I'm a fan of. As far as like the bargain ones, yes, I love Microtex, I love my Axial Gears, I love Heretics, Guardian Tacticals, I like my higher end stuff. But I'm a sucker for, Spydercos. I mean, what's in my pocket? Pocket check, the Delica. It's what I typically have in my pocket. But I love Civivi's designs. I love their design language. I like the attention to detail. I like the craftsmanship materials and the absolutely staggering value for money. So I've got a lot of Civivis. Got the Elementum, even though it doesn't fit my hand quite right. My hand's just a little big for it. It's just a knife I can't let go of. It's just such a good little knife. Love the attention to detail. Great blade. Love my Cetos with the dark brown, reddish. I guess they call it like an Americanized sort of micarta. It's a different sort of bigger, more burlap type of weave compared to like the Elementum. Just love the machining on that. It's decent blade steel, good value for money, nice slick action. My riffle, another great. Again, shinier, tighter. The pattern's more like the Elementum, but it's got like more epoxy, more resin on the outside, so it's a little more slick. It still has some grip, but it doesn't feel as linen-y. It's a nice feel, really good in the hand, really nice design. I love Civivis, and then we're going to go over some other ones in a minute. But what is this one, you might be saying? This is the Saki? I don't know how to pronounce it. But it's a new design from a famous custom designer by the name of Ray Laconica. I guess we'll find out when we look at the name on the blade. Just comes in a simple box, comes with a tasty snack, and it comes in there. Typical Civivi, nice little carry pouch. You open it up, you got the knife protected in that. You got a really nice, good size microfiber. You got your warranty card, you got a sticker, you got another sticker. It's a nice little package. This knife cost me $62.99 on Amazon. It comes in a couple different versions. There's black Macar G10. There's black G10 with a black stonewash blade. There's a green micarta with black blade, and then there is a reddish micarta with a bead blast. I went with the G10. Why? I don't know. I got a bunch of micarta, but G10's nice too, and from the other reviews I saw this, it looked really nice. It's a front flipper, which I'm not entirely crazy about. I'm not a big front flipper guy. It's got to be done a certain way. When it's a flipper that the flipper piece is up here, like the Drifter 2 from Civivi, and you can just flick it like that, I like it. However, they put a thumb stud. So I'm fine with that. I don't mind that little bit of edge. I mean, it would be nice if it wasn't there for me aesthetically, but whatever. That comes up and acts as a blade stop, goes into that pin right there. So whatever. As long as I've got the thumb there, I can do it. I don't know if you can spidey flick it. I guess if you practice and learn where to hold it, you could probably, problem is getting your finger out of the way, but you can do it. But on this knife, for me, being that you have to take it, get your finger out of the way. By the time I'm doing all this so that I can flick it, it's like I could have just opened it with the thumb in half the time. So for me, that's the way you're going to do it. It's a nice, really well machined thumb stud, so no sharp edges, but it does have traction. It's a liner lock with good lockup. Blade centering out of the box, almost perfect. I would say it's 51%, 49%. Pretty goddamn close. That's good. That's really good. So let's talk about the specs a little bit. It is 14C28N, so a perfectly good stainless steel. It's relatively good toughness, holds a good edge, sharpens up real easy. It's a good knife steel. It's got great corrosion resistance. The bead blast finish looks really good. Not a whole lot of billboarding. Very plain on that side. And all it says is his initials, Ray Laconica, on the other side. The G10 is really nice textured. It's got a nice deep carry pocket clip. And what do you see, or rather what don't you see? No mushroom caps. So perfectly recessed screws. Looks like a combination of T8 and maybe T6 Torx bits. You do have the lanyard hole. Not crazy about it. I never use a lanyard. It would be nice to have one that went in this way so you didn't just, hey, we have this beautiful flowing lines of a knife. Oh yeah, let's just drill a hole through the damn thing. It would be nice to have that, more hidden. But whatever, it's his design, not me. I do like the Civivi, the nice machined pivot. You've got steel liners underneath, and they are milled. So this weighs, let me look up the specs on the other screen. It's 3.5 ounces. So it's a little bit, it is heavier than your Delicas, which are around 2. So it is a little bit heavier, but honestly, for its size, it really isn't that heavy. It's lighter than I was expecting for that size. Really nice, kind of just a simple drop point blade with a little bit of belly. Pointy, very small swedge up top. All the edges, and this is where I think, they really knock it out of the park, Civivi. The contours are nice. The edges are all matched up properly. There's no proud edges or one side's crooked. Everything's lined up properly. Every edge is lightly beveled. There's no sharp edges. There's no roughness to this. Everything has been radiused properly, including the jimping. There is ever so slight of just a little bit of cutout, and then you got some jimping there. So even though there's not a lot sticking out, your thumb very easily grabs it. It's not abrasive. You get just enough grip. Same thing here with the jimping, same thing up top. You don't have a choil, but if you do choke up, you've got just enough there. And I'll say this is on the lighter side. I wouldn't mind it a little bit more aggressive, but I'd rather have it like this than too much where it just chews up your thumb. But if you had to choke up here, all those edges are radius. Now there is a downside to that. If you were camping and you needed to use it as a fire sparker on a spark stick, you don't really have a sharp edge here to do that on. So that would be a downside. Downside is, you're going to want that sharper, harder edge. And all the Civivis, they do just a good job of making them kind of cleaned up and elegant that, if that's important to you, that might be something to consider. Everything's kind of rounded and radiused, so you lose that kind of hard striking edge. It's just going to kind of roll and drag down it instead of chewing into it and creating the sparks. That aside, that's not really a concern of mine. It is a reversible pocket clip, however, it's tip up only. I do like that they machined that in a little bit. So a lot of times, what I find is, and I found that even on this, I had to really torque these down. And this is the $35 titanium aftermarket one from MXG Gear. The screws, where they go through the screw hole, the holes that are drilled in the pocket clip are often bigger than they need to be. So you want it to barely go through, where that screw is almost tight through that hole. If there's any kind of slop and play in there, then if you don't have those torqued down really much, then this can kind of just move around, and so you have to really torque it so it doesn't swivel on you. By putting this in that machined channel, that's precisely, there's no gap. If you look around the edges there's really no gap in there. That sits recessed in that channel, which locks it and doesn't really let it move around. You just tighten up your 2 screws and Bob's your uncle. So measurements, let's whip it out and measure it. We're looking at a 3.35 inch blade. The cutting edge is about 3 1/8, so just over that 3 inch. So if you're in an area that you got to keep it 3 inches or under, this one's going to be a little bit too big for you. You should probably go more for the Elementums, knives like the Delica and stuff like that. Let's see, what do I like about it? I will say that, I do like, with flippers where you get that little bit of a finger guard. Finger guard, you feel like you're kind of locked in, finger guard. However, he's got an interesting swell. It doesn't swell so much this way, but here and here. And with the traction of the G10, I'm not going to say I'm as confident pushing that into something as I would with that, where I know my finger's it may hurt if I jam it up against it, but I know that discomfort is going to be less than my hand slipping up over the blade. But just as an EDC, if you had to puncture something, you've got enough traction with the jimping. The G10 gives you enough grip. I'm not sure if the Micarta would give you more, but I really find this blade shape and the handle shape very aesthetically pleasing. It's very organic. It's very simple. It just sort of flows, and it just lays in your hand really nice. It has just enough swell in the right spaces. This fits in your hand, but it does feel like you're just holding a straight shaft. There's no real contours. Your hand has natural contours. That doesn't. So in some parts of the grip, based on the contours of your hand, you're going to be gripping it. And then other places, there's going to be that pocket where there's no real contact. And so it never just feels as secure. That just fits like a glove. It just fills in the middle of your hand where your hand would normally be cupped and want to walk away from it. That is it's subtle. It doesn't look that pronounced, but that is just a great feeling handle. How sharp is it out the box? Oh, feels good. Civivis tend to have excellent edges on them, so. Can you ask for more than that out of the box? Push test? Yeah, buddy. Does a push test. Oops, almost pushed it into my thumb. Yeah, that is a wicked, just seriously. Right out of the box. That is a really, really nice edge. I don't even feel the need to strop that. Maybe I'll throw it on the strop just to make sure there's no burrs. But, didn't feel like it. It wasn't catching on anything. That was just very light strikes, and it just peeled that paper off like it ain't no thing. So very, very impressive there. So I do like Ray Laconica's designs. I'm trying to think of what other ones I have. He's done designs for, we'll get these out of the way. He's done designs for artisan cutlery. So actually I do have one, my Sirius, which again uses his, I guess now, signature front flip, but he does give the option of having that. And that action is, I am not flicking that thing hard. The detent on this is strong. I could get it to, but I had to really kind of snap it. So it's right in that range where you put pressure and it just, boom, flies open. We'll see if that breaks in over time. No wiggle anywhere. It's on ceramic ball bearings. I imagine that'll loosen up. So it doesn't just fall shut like my Kaiser T1. That just kind of goes on its own. But it's a really nice opening, very smooth action. But anyway, I was talking about his design. So I've got another one that's also a Ray Laconica, and this is the Sirius from Artisan, and around the same price. Actually, this one might have been a little bit cheaper. Titanium machined pocket clip, G10, ball bearing pivots. This one's using their ARP9. Or something like that, ARP9M, whatever it is. It's basically a powder steel version of D2. Supposedly it's supposed to be just a tiny step up from D2, but that's a really nice thin knife. But again, it's that straight design that you feel like your hand could slide on it. It feels okay, but it doesn't have the ergos of this. He's done some other knives for Kaiser. I think the Gemini, there's been a couple of his designs. Those were just a little small for my hand, the couple that I had tried. This is kind of perfect. If you got big XL, 2XL glove size, like I can just get a hand on that and it just fills the hand. But I do like the lines and the execution. It does remind me a little bit of some of these other designs. It almost, when I looked at it, I was thinking, you know what? It almost had a Ken Onion sort of shape to the blade. But now that I look at it, it really doesn't. Something about the way it sat, it reminded me of that. But this has got a much more pronounced recurve to it, and this one really doesn't. So I don't even know why I brought that one out. I brought it out because I thought there was going to be some similarities. But, this fits as far as, what kind of EDC knife. This is going to be, it's a larger but very doable EDC. It's classy. And I think that's what I like about a lot of the Civivis is that these look classy. My James brand, Carter XL, I know some people think they're just a lifestyle brand and they're a little bit overhyped. Yeah, I get it. I don't know that I'm going to buy any more of their knives. This was kind of expensive for G10 and VG10 components, but it is a nice enough knife, and the action is broken in nice and stuff. And so I put these knives all in that same kind of category. You got your riffles, you got your if your elementums, these are nice, classy, sort of, I guess, gentlemanly. That's taken on a little bit of a different meaning over time. Those are very slim, typically, and elegant or something, or maybe fancier. So maybe not gentleman's knife is quite the right word. But I look at these, and these look like quality. It's not just like a case or a buck that's got, a horn handle or scale. It's nice materials. It's very well done. It really is a very good ergonomic package. There's no flex in that handle. That is strong. You got G10 over steel liners with a G10 backspacer. So is it going to sit in your pocket as small and light as a bug out? No. No, it will not. Is it going to be even as small as a Delica? No. It's definitely a bigger, thicker, and somewhat heavier knife. But I feel like it really is in that middle space. If you like knives like the Riffle, if you like knives like the T1, if you like knives like the Cetos, this fits in really nicely. If you're not going minimalist with this or a bug out or something of that nature, and you don't want to go up to something too crazy, and you don't want to spend a ton of money, this was $63. It's a $63 knife. They've got a good warranty. Civivi's got a great reputation. They use good materials. They're very well made. The pocket clip is really nice. I love that the bead blast finish matches the blade. I think that's just a really kick-ass design. Part of me is bummed I didn't go for the damn the other one, the Micarta. But I was like, I don't know, something about the G10, the way they did it here, that it was rounded and sculpted. I was like, for G10, I'm like, that looks really freaking good. So we went with that one. And I think also the other one would have taken 2 more days, and I was just being impatient. I was like, well, let's see, I can get this one the next day, because I ordered this last night, and it showed up this morning. So I got it within 18 hours from Amazon Prime of ordering it, versus I would have had to wait till Sunday. So really nice. Like that action. It seems to be fidget friendly, open one-handed, close one-handed. If you do like the top flick, you can do that. But honestly, I don't know why they do that. That's my main critique. The Fire Striker thing I pointed out because of the beveled edges, you wouldn't really be able to do it. That really doesn't bother me. Honestly, when I look at just Civivis out, because they make amazing stuff. That's my only complaint. I wouldn't mind it if this was more rounded and flowed with that line. I don't see the need for that point out there. It's just something extra when it's sitting in your pocket, that point poking out. It's not sharp. It's not going to put through anything. But to me, it doesn't need to be there. It's like if you already have a thumb stud that just works effortlessly, the average person could just grab this and go gunk, and they'll figure it out in 2 seconds, as opposed to this, and then you're like, okay, that didn't work. Okay, maybe I got to choke up higher, and I have to do it this way, or I have to give it a flick. If you have to sit there like 3 or 4 times to learn how this knife likes to be flicked, then I'm like, then that's not, to me, that's not that's not an efficient way to do it. I picked this up out of the box and went like that without even thinking about it. I didn't have to learn where the point is, where the grip is, and where it likes to be flicked and how it needs to be snapped to get that to happen reliably. That's one of my reasons, where I'm not crazy about the reverse flick. Because if I got to sit there and do all these things to figure it out and go, okay, for this knife, because this has a thumb stud, so if I flick it this way, my finger's there, it's going to hit and it's going to slow it down. So that means I have to make sure I do it this way, which is a little more awkward. All right, I could have already opened it, cut something, and put it away in the same amount of time it took me to sit here doing this to get it just right so I can look cool, right? Maybe a knife like this would be a bit easier because it doesn't have anything to get in the way. But then again, it's also got the flipper, so I don't have to make sure I've got it holding right and I got my thumb in the right place so it doesn't slit. You know, I just flick it. That's my only critique, is when they come up, and I understand the argument for, well, you know, you got choices and this and that. But in a design language, when you're looking at the aesthetics, to me, it would look better. It's like, if you want a front flipper, buy a front flipper. If you would want a thumb stud, then this doesn't need to be there. If you want a flipper, you don't need a thumb stud and a front thing. And it's like, well, then anybody could buy it and use whatever you want. Yeah, but then you got all this extra shit kind of, you know, all on here that adds weight because it's extra metal, or it changes the aesthetic. It's like, just design it one way or the other, right? Here, it's a thumb stud. You push it, and that's how you open this knife. Here, this is a flipper. You buy it knowing it's a flipper. That's how you open this knife. Here, well, they give you two options. You can use that, or you can use the flipper, and I'm fine with that, you know, that, because it's not adding extra. You're taking away material here, but that actually looks kind of cool. So I don't have a problem with that, right? But you're not adding extra protrusions. You're not adding extra bits of metal, or, you know, extra attachments, or, you know, things like that. You're not having this stick out, which everything else, there's nothing that's hard angle about this. Everything's rounded, everything's curved, everything's on an arc, and then you got this harsh right angle. To me, that stands out weird. I'd rather see it more like that, but that's just me. If you like that, great, go for it. Those are the only things I can find negative about it, is just when I see something with like 2 or 3 different opening options, to me, it's like, it's almost like the designer didn't know what he wanted it to be. The knife doesn't know what it wants to be when it grows up. It's like it wants to be everything to everybody, and it doesn't need to be. There's literally tens of thousands of models of knives out there for you to pick from. You can find the one you want and buy it. You don't have to make one knife that's going to try to cover all bases. Make different versions of the same knife. Make this as a flipper. Make one as a front flipper. Make this as a thumb stud. And just all you're changing is the blade. You know, that blade would have that end curved and radiused off. On another blade, it would be curved and radiused off and no thumb stud, and you could have a flipper over here. You could literally just take the same chassis and everything else and just drop different blades into this and sell different. I mean, you're making them all on a CNC machine, right? So it's not like it's any extra work or whatever. Instead of putting that metal there, you'd mill it and cut the piece on the other side, and you just make it a regular flipper. That's how I would do it if I was designing knives, is I would pick one or the other. And if I wanted different choices, I would design the knife to be that way, and I'd have a couple variations. Asher Knife Company does that with that one that I bought that I wasn't that crazy about at first, but it did kind of grow on me, was the Asher TI from, or the Spiro TI from Asher Knives. I'm going to get another one of those, but I'm going to get one with a micarta and thumb stud. I think that'll be a phenomenal knife. That one really is spider flick only, and it does work really well for that. I just don't like the slippery titanium scales. It's like grabbing a bar of wet soap. It feels like it constantly wants to fly out of your hand. But anyway, we've covered a lot of ground. I rambled a good bit. This is longer than I normally go on a knife review, but this is fantastic, man. That is a really good feeling knife. It's just a little bigger than some of my knives, but the size comparison, you know, comparing it to a Kershaw Blur, it's a little smaller. If you're comparing it to a Riffle, it's a little smaller. If you're going to compare it to the James Brand Carter XL, it's a little smaller. It's probably going to be more on size with my, what the hell is that? The Kaiser T1. And of course, next to a Delica. It's definitely a little bit bigger than that, but I wouldn't say it's massively bigger. I mean, really, when you look at that, it is going to be a little thicker, and it's certainly going to be a little bit heavier. There's more material. This is just plastic with no metal liners. So this is a little bit beefier, but you're in that same mid-size category, right? I think when you get to here, you get to the 3.5-inch plus knives and the longer handles, you can see where those are definitely just a little bit of a size up, but this is kind of in that sweet spot. You're right in that. For me, the sweet spot for EDC is like 2.9 to 3.2 blade, something like that. And this is right in the middle of that. You're a 3.3-inch blade with a 3.2 I guess 1.5 or whatever cutting edge. You're right there in the middle, upper end of that sweet spot for EDC. And this is going to be more at the smaller end. So that is really nice. I love Civivi, man. They just do some wicked stuff, man. They're coming out with straight blade. They got fixed blades now. Now, some of them are expensive. Some of their fixed blades are $250. You're like, wow, that's a lot for Civivi. No, go look at them. Go handle them. Feel them. Feel they're big. Got a lot of metal. Look at the materials. Look at the craftsmanship, man. I can't say this enough about the Chinese brands. The good ones. I'm not talking about some brand you never heard of that has no reputation and this and that. But I'm talking about any of these brands. CJRB, do I know? Oh, I left that one in the other room. My CJRB Pyrite, the button lock, one of my favorite knives. Fantastic action. Kaiser, Civivi. Well, hell, some of the damn Spydercos are made. The birds and some of the Spyderco Tenacious. Those are made in China. But Civivi is one of the brands, We Knives is a legit premium knife maker. I don't care if they're from China. They're legit. The materials, the designs, they're fantastic knives. But they know not everybody wants to spend $200 or more on a Chinese knife. So they have $45 to $90 Chinese knives. If this was a U.S. knife with these materials, you'd be looking at $100. This would be costing what a Benchmade cost. You'd be paying $150 to $200 for a knife like that. So anyway, if you don't have a Civivi, I'm telling you, go find a knife store that has them and play with one of these models. Now, there's a couple Civivis I'm not crazy about. I think their handle choice materials were kind of wonky, but any of the ones like Elementums, the Riffle, this, there's a lot of the Brazen. There's a lot of really good Civivis, and you'd pick them up and you'd go, there's no way this is a $60 knife. No friggin' way. Not with these materials, not with that level of machining, not with this type of construction and attention to detail. It wasn't slapped together. Someone radiused every damn edge and went over it to make sure there was no proud points, no snags, everything lined up. There's no pieces sticking out. All these edges, the gaps, everything is uniform and smooth. You would not believe that these are $60 knives, and they are. So hats off to them. Ray Laconica, great design. Thank you for partnering with Civivi because, I would love one of his custom knives, but I'm not going to spend $700 on a knife. I spent $450 on a Medford, and I have a little bit of buyer's remorse because it's a nice knife. And I know it's strong. I know it's well made. I know it's good materials. I know Greg takes pride in his work. But my Medford Praetorian Scout, which is now a $500 knife because the price went up, it's not a $500 knife. In my opinion, it's just not. That knife is not worth $500. It is not worth half a car payment. Well, depends on what kind of car you have. Anyway, that's the new Sokoke. Really nice. I'm going to carry that today. I'm going to see how that feels in the pocket. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. If you do, hit like, subscribe. Sorry for going long, but we had a lot of ground to cover, and I really, that's how my reviews go. I don't plan them out. I don't script them. You see me unboxing it for the first time, and my reaction to it and my stream of consciousness is what it is. Sometimes it's like, oh, this is cool. This is neat, pretty sharp, like how it feels, and that's it. Other times I'm kind of impressed with it, and I just sort of ramble a bit and go on about it. But that's a cool knife, man. Definitely check it out. I'll put a link up in the description.